Give it a second. There it goes. Now it's recording. Hi guys. Let me make sure I'm actually live. Hi Freya. Super glad you can see it. Let me see. Come on. Technology is a magical thing. Aha! It's working. Cool. Let's zoom down. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to give it a couple seconds to make sure everybody knows I'm live. Do some last minute adjustments here. Hope everyone is doing awesome. Ooh, get everything ready. Typing like the wind. Let's see. This series is going to be super fun. I'm so excited for this. Excuse the background. Little person is awake. And we still haven't moved, as you can see. It has been an ordeal. Let's see. Anna's here. Jennifer's here. Hi guys. Okay, so I went ahead and first workbook for today, okay, I'm gonna actually explain a little bit what a series is. Hello Joanna. Hi guys. Let me know you're here. Let me know you can hear me. Excuse the cleavage. Sorry, it's the dress. It's just like sacral chakra open. So everything is hanging out. So, for those who don't know what a series is, and that you're catching the replay, this is what a series is. A series, we're going to take the next 3 days to really go over one specific topic. And for this one, it is the Fool's Intuitive Journey. So, we're going to probably be here 45 minutes to an hour, I'll say. And, we're really just going to talk about the Fool's Journey across 3 different decks. Actually, technically it's going to be 4 because I'm showing you guys the workbooks that you can see in the link at the top. Let me copy paste this and pin it so you guys can see it. We're going to go through this workbook, and there's a handy dandy area at the bottom where you guys can write your own stuff. And the goal behind this, every day we're going to have some topics that we're going to go over. I'm going to ask you some questions after the live stream at about 1:30 Mountain Standard Time is when it should go up. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I want you to journal about them, like if you print them out or if you have your own little notebook to write stuff in. So I want you to go over them, answer these questions, and compare the cards to your own deck. And it's really going to help you expand your practice by not only going off of the little information I give you, because there's some keywords on there so you get the basic understanding, but I want you to see why it's different for you according to your deck. You know? Does that make sense? Do we have questions before we start? Give people a second. And did you bring your tea? I brought my tea. I drank all my tea. But I brought my tea with me. Okay. No questions? I don't see questions. Hello, Veronica. I see you. Freya says, I bumped that. Sorry. You're good. Jennifer, no complaints. Just put on a show for everybody. It's cool. Okay. Joanna says she drank all her tea too. Oh, it made me sad because I'm out of my green tea, and that's usually what I drink. So today I had vanilla and apricot and licorice root. And it was actually really good. But it's not my green tea. I miss my green tea. Okay. Let's get started, huh? Woo. Oh my god, professional transitions, and you guys can read it! Oh my god. It's been an ordeal making it so you guys can read it. Oh, that was a freak out. But here, today, you'll actually be able to read it, and you can follow along on the workbook, if you follow that link. Okay? Alright, so let's get started, huh? Alright, the Fool is the first one. Start to the journey. And the idea with the Fool is, all about bright optimism. He's looking up at the sun. He's not paying attention to what's going on ahead of him. He's just like, la-di-da-di-da, ooh, butterfly, fall off the cliff. And we all have somebody like this in our lives, where it's just blind trust in people, where it's like this world is sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and that's about it. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it is, and sometimes the unicorn is going to stab you with its horn. So, I have a couple little things here on each of these pages. I have some herbs that you can associate with it for our herbal people, crystals, the planet that I personally associate with it, a deity, and a season. Just to get your brain working. Get it a little bit more intuitive for you. So, for this one, the Fool is springtime. He is happiness, and the flowers are growing, and it's warm outside, and he has a puppy with him, and, he doesn't care. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. And the big thing I want you to notice here is the difference in each card and how it portrays it. So the Gothic Tarot, which is the first one, like I said, it has Alice in blue, which is important for this deck, going off into Wonderland. She's going off into the ocean. She's going off into the forest. And it looks bright and sunny. She has her teddy bear. She looks pretty. She's ready to go. A little hesitant, more hesitant than, our Rider-Waite fella, but a little hesitant. Choice from the Dreams of Gaia is, more about free will and not blind trust, but having some kind of mindfulness with it and having this sense of cause and effect. So whatever choice you make as the Fool, it's coming from your past. Like, everybody always, you don't just start off at the Fool from nothing. You usually go through the entire major arcana cycle, and then you get to the Fool again. But you're not as naive as you were before, you're just naive in a certain area. So, you're coming from, like, even as a baby, you're not completely new. Yes, you're getting thrown sensory overload with, sounds and smells, and oh my god, I can breathe for the first time by myself, but at the same time, you have come to know your mother's voice. You have become accustomed to something. You've got some tastes going on because you've been exposed to different foods from your mother, and different sounds and situations. So you still have something coming into the world, even if it might not be much, So, you're always coming in with something with the Fool. You have your little bag with you. It's something to sustain you. And the big thing about the Fool, before we move on to the Enchanted World Tarot, is inaction is a choice. You can literally stand there posed like that for however the hell you want. You don't have to do anything as the Fool. Belief is a choice. You can choose to believe in something, and that can move things along. You don't have to make a physical action. It can either be spiritual, or it can be physical, or emotional, or however you want to do it. Okay, and then for the Enchanted World Tarot, let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see it a little bit more. Did I mess that up? Did I mess up the stream? No, I didn't. Cool. The Enchanted World Tarot. Haha, there we go. It looks a little bit different. Now, like I said, this deck is like the Renaissance meets geometry. And you can kind of see what I mean here. You can see the triangles plainly. And the lines of sight are all plainly pointing to the Fool. He is obviously the big thing in this picture because he's out of proportion with everybody else, but he's like a typical Renaissance jester. Well, jester, if you go off of the type of clothing for the time period. He has these ribbons with him, and he has a little basket. He's slightly more prepared than, you know, Rider-Waite with a flower and a haphazard bag on the end of his cane, but he's still very new to this. You can see he's kind of moving through the fields, not really sure how to step. So, 3 different depictions, well, 4 different depictions. How does it compare to your cards? You know, as I look down at the comments. Like, tell me, what stands out to you with these? How weird is it? Honestly, the fact that Choice has a snake with, you know, a torch and then a flying dagger on the other side and a golden apple really threw me off when I first saw it. It was just like, there's so much detail in this card that... And I find it interesting that it limits you to 3 choices, like walking through the gates, looking at it. You know? What are some thoughts for you guys? Let's see. Give it a second. No thoughts. That's okay. Yeah, it's a lot to take in because as you go through this and you compare it to your own cards, it's going to really be throwing a lot of information at you. And it's just like, this is really something you got to sit down and really think about. Freya says, sorry, totally listening. You're totally fine. Don't worry about it. But yeah, even if you don't answer now, feel free to post in the group as we go through this. Oh, we have something. Joanna said, with the Rider-Waite Fool, the cliff stands out to you. Okay, so yeah, there's a cliff in every single one of these photos, right? That's a great point, Joanna. Like, we have a cliff with Alice, we have a cliff with Rider-Waite, although it looks a little bit rockier. We have a cliff with Choice, and we have a cliff with the Enchanted World. Only that one, it's more like a smooth one. You know, that's a great thing. So it's like, what does that cliff represent to you then? What would that be for you? And another thing to point out here, the attire of all of these. Choice doesn't really have an attire, it's just the tree itself. You could do the knot. But Alice is in something really done up for her time period, for the Victorian age. The Fool for Enchanted World is, you know, classical Renaissance, and then you have, you know, whimsical sunflowers on Rider-Waite. Freya says, the imagery for each takes a lot of time getting to know whichever deck you're working with. The cliff to me is taking that leap no matter the danger or the challenge. Good idea. That's a fantastic point. Yeah, and I think this, the Fool is also the introduction, as you said, Freya, not only to the major arcana and what you can expect from this cycle, but the entire imagery for the deck. And if you don't like the Fool, then it kind of sets you up for failure for the rest of the deck, you know? Because then you're like, if this is what I can expect, I'm not sure if I want to go on this journey with this deck. You know? Okay, let's go on to the next one. Alright, the Magician. As above, so below. The law of attraction is the Magician. And this one's a little interesting because one of these things just doesn't belong here. It seems like Dreams of Gaia is more like the Fool here because we have a child. And so let's take this a step at a time. So we have Rider-Waite, and how I always consider the Magician and the High Priestess. Even though we're not to the High Priestess yet. This is just how I take it. The Magician is master of all things physical. He's a professor who does really long webinars at a very elite college. He's done the research, and he's probably still actively doing research. He knows all the risks. He's taken all the risks and been everywhere. You know, physically. As for High Priestess, she is the same way, only spiritual. But she's interesting. We're going to get to her in a second. So, the idea with power in this sense, physical power, he has all his tools. He's got all the elements. He's got a pentacle. A cup, a sword, and a candle there. He's got infinity, he's got the law of attraction on his side. And he realizes, whatever the hell I do, it has to be like alchemy. It has to balance each other out. Joanna says, sorry, eating and typing spelling is horrible. You're totally fine, hon. So, when it comes to the magician, you can know everything in the world, but the idea is having a little bit of humility behind it. Upright, he has that confidence, but he's still a little bit humble. Reversed, he can be a manipulative asshole. And we can see that when it comes to the magician for the Gothic Tarot. Like, this woman, you don't want to mess with her. Like, she understands the consequences of using her own blood on a pentacle. She's spilt over the cup of water just because she can. And she does not look like she wants to be trifled with right now. And same thing with the magician for the Enchanted World on the right. He has this elaborate castle behind him. I'm thinking, Jafar from Aladdin. He's master of his element right now. And he is wealthy because of it. And he seems to have multiple arms. Let me take a look. Yeah, he's kind of got multiple arms here. So, it's really something of note to... He's not only directing his power at something, but he also knows he needs to give the power back somewhere else. Now, the child is interesting here, because a lot of the times we don't consider children to be masters at anything. They still have this innocence about them. They're still kind of about new beginnings. It's a clean slate. They are still in touch with their intuition in a spiritual sense, and they don't know about taxes and laundry yet. But there's still something about the magician that is about potential. When I envision the fool going through this journey, I'm thinking he is going along and he runs into the magician and thinks, that's what I want to be. You can easily come across a child who has this mastery about them, who's a fantastic drawer at 3 years old, and you're like, I wish I could be that. And you use them as an example for yourself. Anna says, the tarot of the side, magician has a fishtail water, flames in both hands, wings on his back, and some bush instead of hair. He has everything inside of him, not as the Rider-Waite tools outside of him. That's really interesting. That's fascinating. So it's more that the elements are a part of him. That's really cool. And that seems to be really intentional for the author. I'd really invite you, Anna, to go and to read the author's notes, like we talked about with research. Read the author's notes and see why they did that. Because that's very true. In order to make the law of attraction fully work, and make things really work for you in any way, we are all made up of different elements. Because air is our thoughts, water are our dreams and emotions, earth is silence and stability, and then fire is our willpower. So that really makes sense. And that's interesting because that's what's lacking in the child here. There's a hummingbird, and there's this beautiful white pedestal and this white light, which you can count light as air. But there's no water. Well, you would assume there's water because of the foliage, because how beautiful these roses have grown, but there's like subtle elements in here, like the more you look at it. But the thing with this is also, when it comes to being knowledgeable with something, is having fun with it. And that's what's really important that the Dreams of Gaia tries to get across. You can have so much knowledge about something, but if it is tiresome for you, if you know all the keywords forwards and backwards for tarot, but you don't find the enjoyment in it anymore, you're not a true master of it. You're not a magician. You need to find that childlike play again. And with us being spiritual beings and, doing tarot, and it doesn't matter what you believe, what your religious background is, but it's like, you can be as knowledgeable as you want about a particular field, but if you don't enjoy it anymore, you're not going to want to do it for a living. The magician does this for a living. This is his bread and butter. So when it comes to Tarot and understanding this card, it's not only is he a mental master of this, but he also loves his job. So that's a great example for you. Awesome. And also when it comes to the child, is you can accomplish as much as you want, but you also need to acknowledge how much you've accomplished. You know, like I personally have an issue just because of how I was raised, and mother wounds and father wounds and all that fun stuff, of acknowledging my success and being proud of it, because I was always taught, be humble. Can't be a true magician if you don't acknowledge the success and be proud of it. You know? Awesome. Moving right along. Stop me if you have questions. Or if you want to have a note. Okay. The High Priestess. This is where it gets weird. And as we go through this, we're going to hit a certain point. It's the beginning of the major arcana for the Dreams of Gaia. At first is in sequence, but then it's not. Then it starts hopping all over the place in the deck, because remember, it goes with thought forms and spiritual forms. It doesn't go with telling a story. So the cards are going to hop around, just as a warning. And this is one of those instances where 2 cards are going to represent one idea. So the High Priestess, we know her, master of the spiritual realm. She is feminine power. If we were to give her like the 3-form goddess kind of idea here, she would be the maiden. Hence why the maiden is in the Dreams of Gaia right there. So she is young, but she is a master of her intuition. If she's upside down, there's illusion there. But that's because if it's upside down, that tart behind her is going to fall. As an easy way to think of it. Because those pillars behind her, which to me always look like salt and pepper shakers, always are holding up that veil behind her. You know, with like pomegranates and leaves and this other dimension. If you flip the card upside down, it's going to fall. You know, same thing with her crown, it's going to fall off. And you know, this is very Christian-based for the Rider-Waite if you do the original deck, so of course she's got the cross and all that. So, we look at the Gothic horror. Very similar imagery. She's got the cross. She's in robes, just in a different color. She's got the trees behind her, and she's got the pillars, and it's got the same B and J on it. Which, if you know the meaning behind that, pop it in the comments. That I could not find while I was researching all this. And the thing for her, though, they still have her with the crescent moon for her thing. Because it goes, the 3 different women for the 3 different faces of the triple goddess would be the High Priestess, the Empress, and the moon. So, it's something to keep in mind. And it's usually upside down for the crescent for the High Priestess. Or it's split in half and things like that. Which is why for the Enchanted World, she's holding it like this on her head. But she's a little bit more of a hippie goddess. You know, she gets one with the world by getting high on a crystal pipe. Which there are those kind of goddesses. So, just looking at the similar imagery between these. You have lots of blues. It's very calm. You have some black in all of them. And you have a little bit of light also. So it's showing like the duality in between them all. I still consider this a spring card. Because, not only because of the Rider-Waite, but also because new growth. I don't see for the Gothic horror that those are winter trees. I see more that they're about to bud, personally. And then if we go down to the Dreams of Gaia, on the bottom, it's split into 2. We got the Maiden and the Youth, and I find this really important because a lot of people only associate the High Priestess with feminine power, which is true. It really is more of a feminine staple. But the Dreams of Gaia is a deck that's big on balancing the masculine and the feminine in yourself. So it gives 2 cards for this. You have the Maiden, which is more about stepping off the path, being a little Miss Red Riding Hood, and going off the beaten path and finding your own way. And then a very similar thing with the youth, with this young Native American boy and this wolf. And I find the imagery so incredibly powerful because both of them are living in the moment. Both of them are discovering their passion and following their intuition. And all of these people in this entire PowerPoint, all 5 of them, are following their intuition in some way. And it shows the many different branches that you can follow your intuition and how different it can look. So it's like the fool is walking along and he sees a master of the physical and the magician, but then he looks and also sees a master of the spiritual with the high priestess. And he recognizes, not only am I following my intuition right now in order to get to where I want to end up, and not only do I have to accept my accomplishments and enjoy it, but I also need to find balance, my own personal kind of balance, you know? And that's just going along with our story with it. And all of these cards are telling such a different story. You know? With the Rider-Waite, I get a nun that's been doing this for years. With, you know, the Dreams of Gaia, there's the children. Well, not children, but like teenagers. Who are exploring on their own and going through this rite of passage. Which is another thing for the High Priestess that's not mentioned a lot. Usually it's a rite of passage because you got the columns and you're moving on into something else. The High Priestess for the the Enchanted World is just exploring the world on her own. She doesn't have anything with her. She's not even wearing a bra. Like, if you look at it, you can tell she's not. She has no cares because she knows she is safe in her own kind of world. And she's all about fertility, so she's going to let it hang out. You know? Freya's gotta go, gotta catch the sprouts. That's okay. Catch the replay. Lots of stuff. Alright. The Empress. Fun stuff. I love the Empress. So the Empress in this case would be the mother, obviously, because she's always depicted as pregnant. But in this case, the Gothic horror, not as much. Unless she's very early stage pregnancy, when they still allowed them to wear corsets. She's usually in something very comfortable, very baggy, very flowing. She would be associated with Venus and Aphrodite and Gaia because she's all about life and birth. I would even go as far, even though I didn't put it on the workbook, she would definitely be Nox or Nyx, depending if you like the Greek or Roman better. I like the Roman for Nox a little bit better. Because she is the birth mother of everything. Like, she's the birth mother of all the scary, the scary gods. You know, like Thanos, death, and all of that. And a lot of the times the mother and the Empress does it by themselves. And it's like the Empress has power in her own way. And I find it so amusing looking at empresses in our own society, because our empresses are usually our mothers, you know, or our grandmothers. And they have this own unique kind of power around them, even if they're married, but especially if they're single women, they have this kind of independence, which is why her throne is so different than the emperor's, which is why her background and her layout, she's like, I trust our relationship enough to know that you're not going to do anything stupid on that stone throne over there. But I'm going to be over here where it's more comfortable. I love you, but I'm going to be over here and nurture myself. You know? So, common thing with all of these is the trees. And, you know, the Gothic horror has all these trees in the background that are, you know, more scary looking because it's based off of, you know, Gothic horror and monsters and things. But this is like... One thing I forgot to point out for the Gothic horror is Alice is in white. All the other characters are going to be in ivory, which I thought was a tiny little detail that the artists put in, but it makes sense. in order to make the Fool stand out more. So the Fool's coming along, he sees the Empress, and he's like, my mother figure. I come into her house, and she's gonna give me all the nurturing things. My solar plexus is gonna be inflated after visiting her. You know? And it's just like, because she deals with fertility and pregnancy and creativity and the birth of new ideas. And it's just like, I know for me personally, whenever I get this card, I'm just like, are you telling me I'm pregnant? Are you telling me I just have a million ideas I want to get out? You know, I have a million things on my mind. And that's what the Empress does. She doesn't always have a scepter, even though 3 out of these 4 ladies do. But she always has this abundant growth around her. So even though the trees are dead in one of these cards, this is a lush forest. And there's a lot of life here. You know? And we can all picture ourselves lounging like the Empress one day. A lot of us are in that stage right now. So, big thing to remember with the Empress is not all the time does it mean a physical birth of something. Or something physically coming. It's always, not always, but sometimes it's more of a spiritual birth, of an emotional birth. It's pent up things that have been festering and growing until finally water breaks and it comes out. So, I know a lot of people, I really identify with this card. Keep this in mind as you go through it. Compare it to your Empress. Is she pregnant in yours? If not, why do you think so? You know? Like, because 2 of these cards, the Enchanted World one, she's wearing a corset too. So she's not going to show. Joanna said, I pulled the Empress today, and that's what I thought too. I'm assuming it means a lot of ideas. Yes, take a test anyway. But if you have a lot of ideas brewing underneath the surface, especially because I know you're a business lady, if you have a lot of ideas, journal them out. Give birth to the ideas. Set up a plan, like a feeding schedule. Feed your inner child and let all the happiness and creativity pour out. Okay, awesome. Next one, Emperor! This is the dude in the distance. Go on, honey. Go have fun with your structure and stability. I'll be over here with grapes. This is the Emperor. He's gonna go be strict. And one thing I want to point out, just because I had a little spat with somebody about this, for the original Rider-Waite, he's holding an Ankh. That long rod that you see with a circle on top. He's holding an Ankh. Ankhs are Egyptian symbols for immortality. And a lot of the times you would see them on the pharaohs, on their crowns. A lot of the time. Costume Design 101. Usually they would be there. Or they would be put as a tattoo on the chest or something like that. And always the Emperor had them because it was important for the Emperor. That's also why, because they had the sign of immortality, when the pharaoh died, everybody else died. A lot of the times. Sometimes their wife would die, their mistresses would die, dogs would die, and they're gold and they get shoved inside a pyramid. But that is an Ankh. But if you notice, the Emperor is never relaxed. He's always wearing some kind of war attire. Our Rider-Waite has knight boots on. I'm horrible with what they're actually called. But he's got his gear on underneath that robe. You got the Emperor for the Gothic Tarot, which also has an Ankh in it. It's more of a staff than an Ankh, but it's an Ankh. He looks like he's going to war. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if that thing is sharpened on the end of it. You have the Father. He's got his, his greaves on. He's got his boots. And he's ready to kick your ass, And he's sitting on his literal iron throne, and he's judging you. You can tell. And then the Emperor for the Enchanted World Tarot always looks like this samurai to me. Because just the way the curves are and how his face is, but he's got too big of a beard to be a samurai. So it's just like, uh-oh. Is the stream still going? Yes, it is. Cool. Awesome. So, when it comes to all these gentlemen, they're the father figure. They're the man in the house. But the funny thing that always pops into my mind when it comes to the relationship between the Empress and the Emperor is the Emperor is the man of his domain. But stealing from my big fat Greek wedding here, just because it always plays in my mind, is the Emperor may be the head, but the Empress is the neck, and she can turn the Emperor any way she wants. So she controls the rest of the house. He controls the finances and the masculine energy, you know. And this is Mars. This is, you know, Zeus and Osiris and Jupiter, even though Zeus and Jupiter are the same person. You know, it's all about structure. And when he's reversed, there's a lack of structure. The father also reminds you about leadership. And it's a time for decisive action. And you know, this is one of those cards that I feel has a Zeus and Athena moment, how Athena came from the head of Zeus. The father did this to the King of Swords, you know, and Justice. But it's one of those where it's like a direct thing, only a little bit less so. Because there's so much about leadership and judging and overseeing things that it's just such a powerful kind of energy. And when it comes to tarot, I know a lot of us are feminine based, but we can't overlook the masculine side. Everybody has feminine and masculine in themselves, and it's not, you know, gender bias and all that kind of mess. Everybody has that balance. It's just a matter of figuring out where in your life do you need to be more masculine and more fiery, and where in your life do you need to be more watery and more free-flowing. You know? Hello, Katrina! I see you! Awesome! Let's go to the next card. Okay, the Hierophant, which I always try to come up... there was this beautiful analogy with the Magician and the Hierophant that I found, where it's like the Magician, well, really the High Priestess here because it's spiritual, they are the Pope. They've been doing this for years, you know. They went through their priesthood and they were nominated and there was a campaign and they became the Pope. Whereas the Hierophant is Siddhartha Gautama. You know, he may have been born to be something, but he went and he did different kind of grunt work, you know. So I don't always take this as a bad sign. It's more you need to do the grunt work yourself. You have these people in front that are worshiping you, but at the same time, the Hierophant is not in the prettiest of clothes. He's like, I have the key to all your answers, but you need to go make your own key. You know? That kind of thing. And there's always somebody worshiping them. Because for the Gothic Tarot, you bet somebody's worshiping that guy. You know? And they've been gifted the divine light and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, they had to earn their way there. Not really as much monk kind of study. It's more, I went to the library and I scrounged all I could find. You know, they're more self-made. The Hierophant does deal with legal matters, though, and counseling, mainly because, again, it's more teaching from your experience. You know? So, Dreams of Gaia splits this up again. It does the crone and the sage. Because there's two different types of masteries here, just like there's two different types of high priestesses that go out into the world. There's a masculine and a feminine. Same thing with the Hierophant. With the Hierophant, we have the crone, which usually would be the moon for me, but I put it underneath the Hierophant for a reason. The crone is the type of woman who is a master of her own thing. She chooses not to have children anymore. It's not the fact that she feels bad that she can't have them. It's more like, I don't need them, you know, to be happy. Not like the mother does. So, you can become a crone at any point in your life once you have mastered your field and you are content with where you are. Same thing with the sage. It's like these two are married, or they're lovers from afar. Because for the description for the sage, not a lot of the time does it say the sage pines for the crone. It's more like he respects her. You know? So you have these two different energies. There's more, I am a master of my own fertility, I'm a master of my own feminine power, and then there's I'm a master of my own masculine power, and I can choose when I want to be masculine, when I want to be feminine, and they kind of interchange like a yin and yang. The Hierophant for me, because of this reason, because of the crone and the sage concept, is fall for me. You know, things are winding down. You are completing your harvest right now. You are not pushing for more things to grow. You are content with your crop, you know? And if you disagree, let me know. Happy to talk about it. And if it's upside down, you're getting poor advice from a charlatan. It's somebody that says that they are, but they really aren't. You know? And it says that the planet is Venus just because it deals so much with knowing your own energy. And it's dealt with Taurus, but I feel like it can really flip-flop. You know, it can flip to Jupiter if you want it to. Deities, Horus, Mithras, people of knowledge. And people who are all about collecting things, because Horus is all about knowledge. You know? Anna says, here it's called the Elder. Here we find a big oak tree with a face and a third eye. Ooh, third eyes. One of the Cid and a snake sitting around a tree stump. There's an empty seat for you to sit down, share your knowledge and experience, and listen in on others. Emily adds much of the traditional keywords in the book, but also the sage, knowledge, and also learning. Yeah. Yeah, the Hierophant never stops learning. Another way to think of it is the Hierophant is the jack of all trades, whereas the magician is the master of one thing, you know? Even though the magician knows that he should be sufficient in all things, he's proud of the work he's done in his specific research field. Because he has his pension and he's getting his grant every month for it. The Hierophant is more like, I'm going to be a master of many different things because I have many different keys. So I'm going to give you an introductory lesson and then push you on your way so you go find out on your own, you know? So that's really interesting. That's perfect. Okay. This is the second to last? Second to last. Yes. Because we're ending on 7. Okay. This one, the Lovers. This is when the card skips super far ahead for the Dreams of Gaia. After this one, especially, it's going to skip ahead. So the Lovers, you know, you have an angel coming in, giving divine blessing to Adam and Eve, pretty much. Sexual love, beauty, partnership. If you get this card in a reading and it's love reading, yeah, boom, you're good. But there's different types of love. A lot of it I consider to be partnership. Neither person is perfect. Adam's obviously not very well endowed. Does that matter to Eve? Not really. Because he's there. But it's all about balancing each other out. You know, if you flip it upside down, it's poor choices in your relationship or a really obsessive relationship, kind of Romeo and Juliet style. Because that was not a healthy relationship. This is more, we know neither of us are perfect, but we click. We balance each other out. So, for example, I have too much feminine in me. I know I have too much feminine in me. Even though when you first meet me, I come across very masculine, I'm really, really too feminine. My husband is the opposite. He's way too masculine. And he doesn't like touching into his feminine side, so we act like a yin and yang with that. Does it cause problems? Yes, but still. The Lovers are not perfect. The Lovers are never perfect, even if the Rider-Waite makes it seem like they are. Which is why I love the depiction for the Gothic Tarot here. Obviously, two families, upper Victorian class family, they are not showing physical affection except for holding hands. That's the only thing that ties them together romantically. That, color coordination. Because, fun tip, if you, just because this does go with the lovers, and it's a fun little thing to see in movies. If you ever see in a movie two people that you can tell that they're trying to pair together, but there's like a love triangle going on, pay attention to the color of their clothing. It is a common thing for costumers that when two people are supposed to be together in a show, they have similar clothing. If they have complementary colors, then it's going to be a yin and yang kind of relationship where they balance each other out. If they have contrasting colors, they're not supposed to be together. And if they end up together, it's going to end badly, So, fun little tip. These two have the same shade of red, same shade of black, same white hair. Color coordination. They match together. So they are the lovers. Adam and Eve on the left, they're naked. But their skin tone is similar. And their hair is similar, so they magically belong together. The lovers for the Enchanted World are more ballet-esque. And then you see this person in the lower right-hand corner that's kind of looking them on. So it kind of gives you, as the reader, a perspective of I aspire to have that synchronicity of someone to lift me up when I need to be lifted and someone to catch me when I need to do a pirouette and fall down. So it's kind of got you looking on at it, and then you got some cupids and clouds and a rainbow in the background, blessing this union. Love, for the dreams of Gaia, is mainly about love and all of its forms. Love can come in so many different forms, which is why I try to emphasize always in a reading, either for myself or for clients, that you can have more than just one type of love. A soulmate mark on your hand can signify more than one kind of soulmate. You can have a soulmate who's a mentor, who's a best friend, a dog can be your soulmate, a parent, and it's not always romantic. It's usually just a symbiotic relationship where you really match well together, And love is multifaceted, and if you let it, it will shape you or break you, And that's where you get the people who hate love, because they absolutely, it breaks them, So, just keep that in mind when it comes to this card. Love can come in so many different types of forms. Sometimes sexual, because yes, they're naked, but not all the time is it just sexual. And not all the times is it just romantic. Awesome. Alright, last card for today. Chariot. This is a card that I start to get stuck on, because I'm going to tell you, tomorrow, they're all the transition cards. And I really get stuck with the transition cards. Because, they're all about moving somewhere and going through crap. This is the last stop for the fool to be looking at someone and aspiring to be them. He starts going through his own little phase, starting tomorrow's cards. The Chariot is a taste of that. He hops on the Chariot and he sees this guy going out there and making his own, It's all about willpower and ambition no matter where you're from. This guy, for the Rider-Waite, has a million different things on. He's got sphinxes carrying his chariot. Okay, you're in the Renaissance. Why do you have Egyptian sphinxes carrying your chariot? Continuity. Makes no sense. And on top of that, it's a mythical being, so obviously he's come from somewhere. But it doesn't fit for the area. He obviously stands out. And if you notice, there's stability behind him because there's castles and bridges. He's gotten over his bullshit and he's on his way to stability because of all of his experiences. He's followed the Hierophant's advice on go out there and discover for yourself. And he's going through it. So the Chariot can be fear of commitment or complete commitment. It can be leadership or a fear of leadership, And obviously it's with the sun because you have Apollo and Helios riding on their chariots across the sky. You got Artemis, and it's summer. He's dressed for summer. He's got the canopy, it's hot, he's got himself some shade. You know, Gothic horror, you got some gargoyles carrying this elaborate chariot in the back. You know, you can't see who's inside, but you know there's somebody of power and somebody knowledgeable because they were able to make these gargoyles come to life and carry this damn chariot. You know, it's interesting. The chariot for the Enchanted World, you have a little bit more of, can't remember him right now, American history. The British are coming, him. You got a little bit more of, that kind of energy, where it's like, I'm going across land and sea to go do it. One thing that comes to mind is Moses crossing the desert with this, just mainly because it's a desert, and you see he's got his canteen, and it's kind of a camel, but it's kind of a moose that he's riding. No. Journey, like I said, this skipped forward quite a bit. This is card number 17 in this deck. So we skipped a bunch, and there's a reason for that, because the chariot is also about experience. It's about, you know, cause and effect. There's a reason why you're moving forward. You know, because I did the hard work back here, and I hitched the ride, I tamed these weird looking beasts that are carrying my chariot. I'm moving forward. And because of what I've done to set myself up for this, there's going to be consequences, either positive or negative for myself. You know, it's also a matter of conditioning. Chariot riders were hardened. Like, they were not pushovers, because your footing had to be correct, your outfit had to be correct, and you had to be stable, especially in the area of gladiators. If you were not stable on your chariot, your ass was falling off, and you were getting trampled by your own team, by all the hard work that you've put in, and probably some people behind you when you were going to be dead. You know, if you put it more in that kind of context. Think of it like a race car driver. They prepare their cars. They stop for pit stops. Hello, Susie. They stop for pit stops. They are doing the work. And they put everything into it. But one wrong turn, and it's very likely that they're going to die. You know. So it's a matter of conditioning yourself to move forward as well. And when the Fool realizes this going through the Major Arcana journey, he realizes, I need to do some conditioning of my own. And I need to really think to myself and put in the work on where I want to be. And that's when we get into the transition cards. That's when we get into the next 7 that we're going to talk about tomorrow. You know? Awesome. Let me flip this. Awesome. So, do you guys have questions? I threw a lot of info at you. Let me check. Let me check. Scroll up. It's being funky. I'll do this. Now, the whole point for this was to get you started. We're just starting for the Fool's journey. We're just now starting to go through, you know, his mindset. First, he's by himself. He's thinking of his goals. You know, he wants to make the world's magical cupcake. Most magical cupcake. He goes and he finds bakers that are doing it in their own way and their different processes. We see people sharing them. We see how hardened you have to be in order to make great cupcakes, and now he needs to start experimenting on his own. You know, to make it really, really simple. Jennifer, it's very awesome. Excited to journal. Awesome. So, like I said, about 1:30, there's going to be a post going up with questions for you guys to answer. And if you haven't grabbed the workbook, it's the pinned post, like it's the pinned comment, and it's in the description for this. So go ahead and go through it. Compare it to your own deck. Look at the symbols. Create stories for yourself. Really tap into your intuition. All those keywords there aren't supposed to be crutches. They're supposed to give you a starting point and how it compares. Okay? And if you signed up for the list, I'm going to get the replay out. Okay? Awesome. Joanna, same excited. Awesome! I'm so glad you're excited. This is so fun. And I'm going to do it with you guys. And we're really going to expand our knowledge on this. It's going to be amazing. So, I hope you guys have an awesome, awesome, awesome day. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Okay? Bye, guys.